So now let's talk about why this is called a DSLR, or digital single lens reflex camera. First of all, it's digital because it's a digital camera. We're not shooting on film. It's a single lens camera because we only have one lens on the front of this. There are other types of cameras that have multiple lenses. And then it's a reflex camera because the light enters through the front of the lens, it hits a mirror, bounces up into a prism, and allows me to look through the viewfinder. You'll notice the viewfinder does not go directly through the lens. The viewfinder is up above the lens. But because of this reflex, I'm actually able to look through the lens. So then you may be asking yourself, how am I able to take a picture through a lens while at the same time looking through that lens? And normally you wouldn't be able to, but the mirror actually gets out of the way each time you take a picture. So if I turn this camera on here and I take a shot, you can hear that ch-ch, and a few things are happening. First of all, the mirror is popping up. So if you look through the viewfinder, you'll notice that as you take the picture, it goes black and then comes back. That's because the mirror is popping up. The light then is coming directly through the lens and hitting what would be the sensor in the back, but there's a shutter in the way. The shutter has two separate leaves. So one opens up, revealing the sensor behind it. That begins the exposure and the camera starts to capture the image, and then one more leaf comes behind that, closing off the sensor so that it's not receiving any more light and the exposure is then over. Now in the past, instead of a photo sensor, we would have had a piece of film back there that was sensitive to light. For this tutorial, we're going to be using digital cameras, and digital cameras have a digital chip, usually a CCD or a CMOS chip, that has photosensitive material on it that allows it to track red, blue, and green colors over the course of many different photo sites. The camera then takes all of this information, breaks it down, creates a file that's made up of millions of individual little pixels that are each its own separate color. And the interesting thing is, if you think about megapixels, that means million pixels. So if you have a 10 megapixel camera, that means that the file that it's actually creating, if it's a JPEG or RAW file, it has 10 million pixels to create that image.